because of the nature of like the early off-season schedule, it sort of manufactures news whether you like
Right.
it or not.
Yep.
And even for a team like the Twins, who aren't necessarily doing much, you still have to do some stuff because
Right.
there are deadlines set up in November with in terms of roster, in terms of Rule 5 protections, in terms of arbitration stuff, coaching staff. Obviously, we're going to get to all that stuff. Free agency is underway. There's been a couple of signings already, including Josh Naylor, significant signing. There are also some new TV stuff that we wanted to talk about. Not
Yep.
quite new. I do. Well, we'll talk about this further in the show because we got a lot to get to. But we did do like a 20-minute segment on the ESPN MLB TV situation like 3 months ago when that
Right.
news came out.
Yep.
And I am happy to say that about 95% of that still plays
That's right. Yep.
in terms
That's
of what
right.
we talked about. But we'll go over that because I know we've gotten a lot of questions about that. And I know we both talked to Twins official
That's right.
about
Yes.
that because they wanted to
Correct.
get the word out, which I appreciate that.
Yeah,
We like,
that was nice of them to be
yeah.
proactive about something like this.
Does
And
it annoy you that they called me before they called you, John?
no, it does not annoy me at all.
Okay.
No.
It annoys me that they called me, period.
I actually end up wrap up a meeting. I'm like, hold it, why am I getting this call? I gotta go. And I
Yeah.
wish I wouldn't have had to wrap up that meeting. So I would
It's
prefer he called two other people before he called me, actually, because I could have finished up the
so
important meeting. So
so many of my phone calls these days, and there's so many more than there used to be. I could go years without being on the phone before you know that.
yes, I do that.
So many of them are, all right, I'm gonna call bonus now. Like, all right, you could have just called him first. Anyway, we got a lot of stuff to get to. And also we have Rob Manfred. We can just touch this one off the top,
Right.
cross it off the list. Rob Manfred spoke to some reporters a couple days ago, yesterday, and was asked about the Pohlad ownership situation, the minority or the what are they calling it? Not minority, limited partners.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah. Um, when you struggle for a word and you reach out to John for it, it's like trying to get
Well, here's the thing. I've
somebody
been
throwing
trying
you
to.
an anchor when you're drowning. It's like just die.
It's funny because I was thinking, like, I keep calling it the minority partnership.
Yeah.
I know they don't want me to call it that
I
because
don't know
that's
why, like
right.
whatever. But anyway, Manfred, let me read you the full quote because it is one sentence.
Right.
Uh, Manfred was asked, and Evan Drellick, who does a lot of good business stuff for The Athletic, reported on this, but I just want to read it because it's funny. Here's what Evan Drellick wrote, and this was like at the bottom of a thing that had a bunch of notes from talking to Manfred about much bigger topics. This is from Evan Drellick. The Pohlad family's efforts to sell minority stakes in the Minnesota Twins are ongoing, Manfred said. And then here's this quote from Manfred. Those non-control interest sales are in process, on track, and in process, Manfred said, sharing no further details. And people I know will note, and we will note here, that it was a couple months ago, right? Where he said,
Right.
it was more than a couple months ago. It was like in July, I guess, maybe around the All-Star break, something like that. I forget what his media session was doing, but he was asked about the fact that they had been on the market for like 8 or 9 months at that point without a sale. And he sort of smugly said, well, I know stuff that you don't know, and I know there's going to be a transaction. And then
Right.
they pulled it off the market, and now we're still waiting
Right.
3 months for
That
the minority
transaction
part.
ended up being minority stakes
Yeah.
being
Oh,
potentially being purchased at some
right.
point, and we have been actually sort of. I'm glad you brought this up because I did want to. In in a show where we didn't have 10 other pieces of news, we probably would spend
Yeah.
20 minutes unpacking this. But the fact
Yeah.
is that they announced that they had these new buyers or minority stakes buyers in
August.
August, and we were kind of like, well, it might take a while to wrap that up. I'm sure we'll get something by the owners' meetings. And this week I woke up on Monday morning and went, hey, it's the owners' meetings. I haven't heard anything. I did hear that we might hear something fairly soon from somebody,
I hope. I
we
mean,
haven't. But but meanwhile, we one of the things we didn't mention about the Patreon.com, we also had a Patreon episode right after the GM meetings where we asked about whether or not we would find out who these owners were at some point. And Derek Foley was kind of like, I think by the winter meetings,
right, which isn't
I will
about
have
three
something.
weeks from now. Yeah,
Right.
John went to the
General manager
GM
meetings.
meetings
Right.
in Vegas,
Yeah.
and we kind of did a whole episode on Patreon early this week. Was it Monday probably?
Yeah.
Where we kind of went through all the stuff he learned or didn't learn from Derek Falvey because you had a couple media sessions with him, and one of the things that at least I kind of got caught on and discussed a lot was the idea of him just kind of continuously kicking the can down the road and saying, well, we don't need to know what our payroll is yet. We don't need to know what the direction of the team is yet. And he did that at the end of the regular season. And then he did that a couple of weeks ago at the Shelton press conference. And then he did that at the GM meetings. And now he's kind of pointing to the winter meeting. Something tells me on December 7th or whatever, when media ask him the same questions, he might say something similar. And it all stems from ownership. And it all stems from A, the Pohlads, obviously, but B, these limited partners, minority partners, whatever you want to call it, that it's now 3 months into that process on top of the 10 months where the team was on the market. And, you know, we can sit here and say our assumption is that there's not some snag happening, but I will tell you that Manfred's inability to give any sort of comment on it doesn't, you know, make people feel real great about the situation. And beyond that, as we see, trades and signings are already happening. And so if the front office is truly in a position, and I think this was my takeaway from kind of what you shared from being at the GM meetings and talking to Falvey, my takeaway was he's just, even more so than usual, which this is kind of the Twins' MO anyway, the front office is just really in a holding pattern here in terms of moves that might cost more than, you know, $5 million or significant trades, where it's like they don't know if they're going to have spending room. And I'm kind of skeptical of that, that they truly don't know, given that he's the dual team president. But if that's the case, then this is hurting them. Like this whole ownership situation that continues to drag on, it not only creates uncertainty and questions from fans, which is natural, but it also creates uncertainty and questions and, you know, increases the degree of difficulty for a front office that needs all the help it can get at this point.
And welcome to the end of this video. There's lots more. For another, just click on one of these boxes.
Or click on this circle in the middle to subscribe to all of our Twins Talk.
Thank you.
Gleeman.